parenting really and caregiving is really a long game. You're not really raising kids, you're really raising future adults.
If we can give practical things that are going to help parents right now where they are, that's where my passion is.
Yeah.
Whether you've been parenting for 15 years or parenting for 2 years, whether you're 24 or whether you're 39 years old parenting, sometimes you feel isolated and you feel like you're not as good as the parent on Instagram that posts all these wonderful pictures of their adorable family.
Right.
It's like, no, everybody actually has issues.
Maybe someone's listening today and they're like, oh my gosh, Pastor Angie's son's served. And they're like, oh, solidarity. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Raising the Next Gen podcast. We're super excited to kind of get this story going, and we want to introduce ourselves to you. I'm Pastor Angie Larson, and it is a great pleasure to be here with my friend Adrian.
Yeah. My name is Adrian Walter. I'm the director of Next Gen Ministries, Calvary in Alexandria, and this is fun. I'm really excited about this.
I'm really excited about the opportunity to do this too. Adrian and I have actually known each other for, I don't know how long at this point. 25 years.
1999.
1999. Yeah. I think we both started in youth ministry at the same time in the Milwaukee area. And then as we have kind of raised our own children and walked alongside hundreds of families as they've been raising their children, we are so excited to be able to have the opportunity to be able to sort of share kind of gained wisdom with parents that are and caregivers who are raising their kiddos.
Yeah. The reason that I'm really excited about this, there's a couple things. One is, I think that if we can give practical things that are going to help parents right now where they are, that's where my passion is.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like theoretical, or it's not, it's things that are genuinely going to help people right now and help support what they're doing with their own kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of wish that they had podcasts when we were raising our kids. My kids are kind of at the point where they're a lot older. I am the mom of 4. You're the dad of 2. My kids are at this point, they're 28, 24, 18, and almost 14. So I feel like I've been raising kids for generations, really. But your guys are kind of closer in age here.
Yeah, we're just launching our kids, essentially. My oldest son, we just launched into his graduation this last weekend.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks. It's exciting.
It is exciting.
And our youngest one, we just launched out of high school. And the other thing that I'm thinking about too is how different things are now than when we started in 1999 with my kids. We had dial-up internet.
I know.
And it wasn't even something that you used regularly, at least that I didn't.
Yeah.
And so now things are changing so fast, and they're dealing with things that I couldn't even think about dealing with, when Luke and Adam were little.
Yeah, no, I think about that too. I think that the rate of change for families has just been exponential. And it is my hope that in this Raising the Next Gen podcast, that we are able to bring in some great folks who have been thinking about some of these kind of things that families are up against that no other previous generation has had to sort of wrestle with, that level of a rate of change. I know that some of the guests that we have lined up that are coming, these are folks who have thought about how AI interfaces with our kids. They've thought about the mental health crisis that we sort of watch with our children and how technology's done that. And I cannot wait to be able to put like very practical tools into our listeners' hands so that they can. My hope is that when they listen to this podcast, then that they can take that and then apply it like immediately.
Yeah. And the other thing about this too is, as much as things have changed, there's still some core components, right? The relationship with your kids, you are still by far the biggest factor in the kid's faith formation.
Yep.
Right? And so building that relationship, even in this, those things matter. Our faith matters on how we do things.
Yeah.
And so all those things, so even though all these changes are happening, there's still these core components of, hey, how are you relating to your kids? Things that, you dealt with in different ways,
right?
Different challenges. And so, I'm really
excited too. I sit there and I think about this one story of when my son Chase was little. Not little, I guess he was in junior high.
Was Chase ever little?
Well, he's a big man. That's true. Yeah, but this is my oldest, I had him so young. I was 19 when I had, so I was this teen mom, and I was trying to, like, figure it out, and I always felt like I was, like, behind the curve, like, that other parents who were older than me, while we were in school, I always felt like I didn't quite understand what they understood because I was sort of behind it. But when he was in junior high, he was the kind of kid that just sort of pushed boundaries in any way, shape, or form. And this is something that, as a grown man, I appreciate about him. He kind of advocates for justice and looks for equity for people. But that same thing that gets him to push boundaries as an adult, he did as a kid, and it drove me absolutely bonkers. When he was in junior high, he decided to hack the school's iPad system and he put this inappropriate picture, up on all the school iPads. I got a phone call that said from the principal that said, he was he was gonna, serve some in-school suspension for this particular one, and then I asked the principal, I was like, "Well, how did he do it?" And the principal said, "I have no idea." And so Chase then had, as part of his punishment, had to show the school IT department, that, how he had hacked into these school iPads. And I thought, "Oh my goodness," this kid was onto something. Now he's a computer
I was
network
gonna say, so what does he do now?
yeah,
Or
yeah,
yeah.
yep, but I sit there it's the same skills that he had then, he now applies kind of for good, he learned those things. But I was so ill-equipped as a parent to, like, I don't know how to deal with this, I don't even know how he did it. And so it's my hope and my goal that, like, through our, years and years of not only ministry, but, of parenting, that we're able to help parents who are trying to navigate the smartness of their kids, when they think about it for, like, parenting really and caregiving is really a long game,
Yeah.
Like, you're not really raising kids, or you're really raising future adults. So how do we do that sort of well, in the system? And now I can tell you with great pride that, that Chase is a well-adjusted, lovely adult.
Well, could you ever, when you were in that time frame in junior high, did you think that that would be a story that you'd be able to tell laughing and
Oh,
thinking,
no, I cried in my closet.
that's just it, right? I mean, sometimes as parents, we get so focused on this one moment, it's like, oh my gosh, we're never going to recover from this.
We're never gonna do it.
The other thing that's interesting that you said is about how, as a 19-year-old mom, you felt ill-equipped.
Yeah.
One of the things as a parent of two boys and talking with parents is everybody feels that way. Whether you've been parenting for 15 years or parenting for 2 years, whether you're 24 or whether you're 39 years old parenting, sometimes we think that we're the only ones that are struggling,
Yeah.
and I think that it's important. One of the things that I hope comes out of this too is that parents don't feel like they're alone, like they're the only ones struggling with things.
Right.
Because then sometimes you feel isolated and you feel like you're not as good as the parent on Instagram that posts all these wonderful pictures of their adorable family.
Right.
It's like, no, everybody actually has issues.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like you're not prepared.
Maybe someone's listening today and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Pastor Andrew's son served." And they're like, "Oh, solidarity." Right? Like, I'm so glad that, if that can be true, then it's okay that maybe my kid was suspended too,
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I think God created us in a way to do this sort of together. And so, but we're so isolated in our current society. And so, how do we find ways to kind of unite and sort of bring families together to sit there and say, "Hey, you're not alone
Yeah.
in this." In fact, one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is, we have some guests lined up that have raised incredible humans and they have struggled, and we get to sort of glean from their wisdom.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to kind of how that continues to grow as this podcast sort of develops.
Yeah. And the other thing too, I think that you said that I think is really important for people to understand is that we're raising adults,
Yeah.
right? And so the goal isn't, am I going to get the perfect picture now? But even with Chase, your relationship with Chase,
Mhm.
you loved him dearly.
Yeah.
You didn't give up. You kept on investing in him, right? So that he would learn from that
Yeah.
and be able to move forward,
Mhm.
right? And so I think that's one of the other important things too, is that sometimes we get focused on the here and now. It's not, what's the long game?
Yeah.
Because parenting isn't this I mean, so much social media and everything else, instant gratification, instant results, where parenting, it's not that way. You're gonna have bad report cards. You're gonna have kids do things that you don't want them to do.
Yeah.
There's gonna be failures, but you keep going and you keep trying and you keep investing. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the most important things. And
Yeah.
as much as a lot of the guests we're gonna have, we're not perfect parents.
Yeah. No, I don't think
They
there is
make
one.
mistakes.
Exactly, that they make these huge mistakes, and then, how do we as parents, like I said, now this is a funny story, but it wasn't sort of at the time. It was a really challenging, hard thing, and I'll be really, really, vulnerable. I was embarrassed that my son had, gotten
Youth
suspended.
director, the Christian leader
The
in the
Christian
church.
church that my son spent time, and that wasn't even his first and only time in the principal's office. He was a frequent flyer. Um, but yeah, so here I was trying to like walk with parents, and my own kid was struggling with sort of his trying to navigate his own way. But I think that's what it means to kind of be in community together and to raise those adults. I can look back and I can see, um, I guess even sort of like the virtue in Chase of being willing to sort of cross lines, that I was terrified he would cross. Like, now he does it for good. He advocates for people, aggressively and make sure that everyone has a seat at the table. It's the same sort of he's not afraid to stand up to authority, but I kinda wish he was a little more afraid when he was in 6th grade, kinda doing that. But it's been such a fun journey, of parenting for me over all these years. I think about one of the things that we get to sort of share on this podcast. I've been personally a lot of different kinds of mom. I was a teen mom, I was a single mom, then I have a blended family, and I think, like, I can't wait to help share some wisdom for how people can kinda do blended family, that Ryan and I have learned, over the course of years. I think about too, then, we struggled with fertility as part of our story to sit there and talk about, "Hey, you're not alone in that," and now I feel like, I didn't have my daughter Skylar until I was almost 35, and so now I'm an old mom. I'm, like, one of the oldest moms on the hockey team parenting lineup there, and, so I get to sort of wear a bunch of these hats, as, I've walked my own journey, of parenting, and so I'm excited that we get to connect with folks who, no matter where they're at when it comes to parenting and caregiving, that I think that this podcast, this Raising the Next Gen podcast, will get the chance to sort of address some of those things that parents experience kinda in the day-to-day.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I'm pretty excited about it. This last recently there was a preschool graduation,
Yeah.
and there was one kid in the back, and the parents were with him. And for preschool graduation, you invite people,
Yeah.
everybody dresses up, and like before graduation, there was, an older brother like doing actually the mom was doing the younger kid's hair,
Yeah, yeah.
and then the young kid is like, can my brother do it? And so it was very adorable.
No
The
kidding.
the brother came up and was doing the hair. Anyway, so it's a big deal,
Yeah.
right? Preschool graduation. And I remember Luke, my oldest one, for his preschool graduation as well, he refused to go up.
Mhm.
Like, he freaked out, didn't he never wanted to be, and still really doesn't like to be in front of a whole bunch of people,
Sure.
right? It was one thing that was really bringing him anxiety. And then watching him walk across for graduation
Mm.
was fantastic. And so it's one of the things that I tried to share with the parent in the back. I was like, "Just so you know, my kid just graduated college and he walked across. This is exactly how he was."
Yeah.
And so it's like just watching them develop and grow up, and yeah,
But don't you remember when you're in that moment, you're like kind of, you freak out as a parent when you're like, why aren't they doing the thing that I kind of had this expectation to do? But then I think too, like, I don't know about you, but I always sort of internalized that it was sort of a reflection on me as a parent.
well, and you're thinking, who else is watching you,
Yeah.
judging you?
Right.
Where most parents, they're not looking at you, judging you at all. They're like,
They're worried about their own kid, like wiping boogers on the seat or whatever.
I feel bad sometimes if I see a parent struggling, especially out, I'll start laughing. Not that I'm laughing at them, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember those days.
Remember
And,
those days.
in third grade, Luke, wow. So in third grade was the last time I helped him with math
Mm.
because he came home and got in a screaming match.
Oh.
And Luke wasn't real passionate about things, but we started yelling at each other because I was telling him how to do division.
Yeah.
And then my wife, who's a teacher, came home and she's like, no, that's how you do it now. I was like,
Oh, because they changed math.
they changed, yeah. They changed it. And I didn't know that they changed it. And here I'm yelling at my son because he's doing it wrong. That was the last time, because now he was a tutor at college for math. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
second grade was
What do
math
you know, Dad?
actually. And he was right. Yeah, that was the thing.
I know, isn't that so fun? But yeah, and even just the changed math, just the way that the pace of change has happened for our kids. As parents, I think, how do we stay up with it? Like, how do we stay on top of like all the different things? And it's overwhelming if we're really honest. Especially when it comes to technology. And so one of the things I'm excited about is some of the experts in technology that we're going to be bringing here on this podcast and introducing to this community of listeners. And so I think that that's a really exciting thing goal that we have, to be able to talk about those things kind of in depth.
Yeah. And part of this is leveling ourselves a little bit, right? Because when it comes to technology or other things, sometimes we go way far one way. There's parents that are like, I'm not letting my kid do any technology whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then you have parents that are so watching everything. It's like there's this balance, right? As kids grow up, we have to give a little more space to a little more freedom. So when they make those mistakes like Chase did, or like my kids have, we can help figure out how do we come back from those.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we as parents like to swing way too far,
Yeah.
one way or the other.
Or sometimes do you think it's a response we swing from how we were parented? We didn't like some of the ways that we were parented, and then we swing the other direction, and then maybe there's still sort of this like messy middle that is a healthy space for us to sort of live in. I remember growing up, we were a really formal family, and so then I wanted to make sure that we were just kind of, and so now I'm like, sometimes we're a little too loose when it comes to like some of the things my kids will talk to me about. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not sure I wanted to hear all of that, but I am grateful that I get to have those conversations with my kids. But it meant that I had to take a different posture in how I have chosen to parent my squad, my four, and that's been really a fun growth process, kind of through the years for me to kind of watch how I've grown as a human, and how I've chosen intentionally to raise my own kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's fun.
Yeah,
It's just, yeah.
Yeah, no, it is super fun. And so I think we're going to have a lot of fun on this podcast, on this work that we're going to sort of do and engage together, talk about some great parenting wisdom when we talk about parenting for the long game, that it's not just today's problems. One of the things that I remember learning early on in my parenting journey that had really helped me was someone told me, I can't remember who, but they said, you want your kids to make mistakes and screw up as much as they can while they're in your home, because then you have the opportunity to help correct it. And it's kind of this brilliant philosophy. Like, you can celebrate the fact that they did something that just drove you crazy, or that they messed up, and because now you have the opportunity to engage with them and to sort of kind of correct that, so that you can have the teachable moments, is kind of what it's called a little bit. But I used to work at a college, and we would help the freshmen move in on the first day, and we would sit there as staff, and we would know which students were not going to make it 6 weeks in college. And it typically was the ones that were sort of maybe even over-parented, like their parents had told them sort of every single thing that they could do. So by the time they got to college, they didn't feel equipped to be able to navigate their own challenges and their own problems. And so we could kind of sort of watch how they parents that told their kids, like, grab that box, bring it up the stairs, unpack it, put the lamp over there, all those things. We could sit there and say, that kid's really going to struggle when they kind of grow into their adulthood, because they've been sort of told what to do all the time. So
here's where this will be our first disagreement.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's as much of an issue anymore.
Yeah.
It used to be like there was a term like overbearing parent,
Yeah.
or
I remember that.
and there was that term, but now it's almost more of this bulldozer parent
Yeah.
that isn't even telling their kids exactly what to do. Instead, they're the ones doing everything
For
for
their
their kid,
Yep.
right? And so when it comes to college, or when it comes to
Whatever the
whatever
next
they need
phase
to
is.
do,
Yeah.
the parent's just the one doing all the stuff
Yeah.
for the kids. Because some parents are like, "Oh my gosh, I need to take care of my kid," and they don't let them learn that. And so when they launch to college or whatever, you have parents making the calls to college if, like, things aren't going quite right for
Yep.
their kid, or the kid's making a mistake. It's the parents that are, like, just walking in and, like, yeah. And so this bulldozer parenting can be a real issue.
Yeah, when I actually taught at the university, I would get emails from parents, about their kid's grade, and I thought, "Oh my goodness gracious," like, I don't even know what I actually legally couldn't communicate with the parent because the student's an adult, and, so that was just, like, this really interesting sort of kinda thing to unpack, a little bit.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine does mental health at a higher education
Yeah.
institution, and it's interesting talking to her about how many more calls they get from parents. It's like, "Well, you're not doing enough for my kid." And it's this balance, right? Because, well, your kid has to start to show some initiative. But this is where, I remember Tiger McLuhan having this power and control graph, where it was, when they're little. Yeah, I mean, okay, if you're a baby, everything has to be done for you.
Yep.
But when you get to be toddler, and so it's this sort of letting go that you were talking about, and okay, I need to give them more freedom, more freedom, more freedom. So when they're done
Yeah.
and they do launch and they leave,
Yeah, I think
they're not
I
prepared.
think, my mom used to have this saying. She said, "Giving birth is hard." And I'm the woman here in this one, I can guarantee that that is hard. I mean, I know that Linda, I'm sure that that was hard for her too. And she goes, "But," my mom used to say, "But letting go is even harder." Because you have to sit there and trust that all the things that you tried to pour into this human, some of them are gonna stick and some of them are not gonna stick. But, I agree with that. As someone who's launched, 2 kids, you've launched 2 kids, letting them go and become these autonomous adults is really hard. It's
Yeah.
really hard, because you don't get the opportunity to sort of pick them up like you did
Yeah.
sort of all those years. I have
I
a lot of empathy. I was thinking about, what you were saying. I have a lot of empathy for parents who do a lot of those things. My guess is some of them, maybe that's that pendulum swing. They were raised in households where nobody did anything for them. So it's like an act of love to be able to like help navigate all of those things. And I really do believe that too. But also, I think there's some fear involved in that too.
And I think part of that fear, this is just, without scientific data
Yeah.
or anything, it's about wanting to have the perfect kid.
Yeah.
You're like, my kid doesn't make any mistakes. So how dare you think that my kid is the one messing up?
Yeah.
And sometimes, that can affect
Yeah.
how we do things or go about things, realizing that, yeah, my kid isn't perfect.
Yep.
My kid isn't. It's okay that my kid makes mistakes, and it's okay that other people see my kid
Yeah.
make
Make
mistakes.
mistakes. I think, to normalize that, to sit there and say like, "Hey guys, we're all doing this together. We're all sort of
Yeah.
figuring it out together."
Yeah.
But then I think also there's some people that have really gleaned some great wisdom, when it comes to raising the next generation. And I'm so excited that in this podcast we get to sort of learn about that, as well as adapt and develop some strategies, kind of like tools in our pockets that
Yeah.
like, when our kid does something, we can sit there and say, "Oh, I remember that I am parenting for the long game," or just little things that
Yeah.
can help us as parents, feel some solidarity with others.
And the other sort of the other component to that too is, how does our faith come into this
Mm.
in a place where, as a kid, at least in my family growing up, you went to church every Sunday.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We were very regimented as far as how we did church,
Yeah.
did faith, but now, I mean, there's so many other things coming in.
Right.
Part of this is this data dump that my kids can look up anything on the phone. I couldn't do that as a kid,
Right.
and so even like learning as a kid, I grew up in a very ELCA Lutheran community.
Yep.
Even learning there were I didn't know until my junior or senior year of high school that there were other brands of Lutheranism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that is something that everybody knows, that there's a wide range
Right.
of ways you can get information about faith. And so how are we as parents, caregivers, churches, whoever it is, making sure that our kids are growing up in the faith and learning about who God is and why that matters, and learning how our faith life and all these other things, all these other choices, how we're treating each other, justice issues, how do they intermix?
Yeah, I think that most parents, want their children to have a faith
Absolutely.
life.
Yes.
I think in many ways, parents just feel ill-equipped. Just like I don't know how to do this sort of faith life, and so that's one of the things I'm excited that we get to sort of talk about here
How
on
many
this
how many
podcast.
parents, we grew up in the confirmation
Yep.
age. How many parents, their last type of religious formation, anything, stopped in 8th, ninth grade when confirmation was done?
Yep.
So if you're a parent that hasn't done any kind of faith study or learned about more about who Jesus is since then, you're gonna feel
I
ill-equipped,
know, I agree.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, we are. And so our hope is that this podcast will be able to dive into some of those faith conversations too. We're super excited about not only like the relevance for being able to bring in some folks that we know have great influence and great knowledge. And so we'll get to glean and learn from them, but then also explore as parents, how do we then integrate our faith life, our love of Jesus into our family with some really practical strategies. That's one of the great big goals of this podcast. And Adrian, I'm super excited that we get to do this together.
Yeah.
This is going to be a really fun journey through sort of as we raise the next gen. How do we do that vulnerable, messy, all of those things is kind of the hope and the goal of what we're sitting here trying to do today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, totally agree. I'm really excited. And one of the things that I would love to see happen too, I know we're about ending our time
Yep.
for this episode, but is how do we, continuing the conversation online too?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, just seeing what people's comments are, and maybe being able to interact about some questions people might have and resource people too.
Yeah. Yep. That's one of our biggest goals is to kind of be the sort of church, the sort of organization that just walks with people no matter where they're at. We have this big saying on our wall. This is no matter where you've been or who you are, you're welcome here. And that I think is really the heart of it. No matter what you're going through as parents or caregivers, no matter what your kids are doing, you are welcome here. And I'm proud that we get to offer this to our listeners and our community. And we're gonna have a lot of fun together.
I agree.
I agree. Well, thanks so much, and we really hope that you'll come and join us for our next episode. We are so excited. So check us out. We'll be launching just weekly. So just jump in and check it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Bye.